Business owners and others live with intention. I'm Gordon, and I am joined again by my co-host, Adam.
Yeah.
Adam, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Gordon. I'm glad to be here. Hey, everyone.
So excited to have Adam back. So we've got an interesting show today because we don't have a guest. I mean, I guess we're kind of each the guest. Sure, We'll call it that.
Yeah.
But we were talking right before this just about, what's going on in our lives. And we sort of landed on this interesting topic that we think is helpful to people, and we want to just dive into it a little deeper so that we can potentially help you if you're watching or listening going through something similar, especially folks that are early in their business career or trying to start something. It's that idea of how do you get started and how do you get going, and especially if you don't have skills and you don't have capital.
Yeah.
Because those are the two major things you need to be successful in business is skills and capital, right?
Yeah.
So we were talking right before this, and you were excited about, we're both excited about things. We got lots of stuff going on. And one of the things that you're excited about is some potential real estate kind of opportunities and things.
Yeah.
So you don't come from a real estate background.
Not at all.
You don't know a ton about
Not
that,
at all.
potentially, but you're trying to get into it, which
Yeah.
makes sense. It's a great concept, and it does make sense. It can make a lot of money for a lot of people. Tell me a little bit more, tell the listeners a little more about why you'd want to get into that, and then what you're finding you need to know or have to be successful at that, because that's kind of where this started, right?
100%. Yeah, I'm grateful you asked. And when I was 22, I started a self-service, customizable food and beverage shop that made money while I slept. And it was actually, I was thinking about it this morning. Gordon was the first person I almost gave up about halfway through, because when I was going to open the company, my company, it was going to be inside of a different company, and the company it was going inside of didn't open its doors. And at that time, it was a dark time in my story. I'd lost a lot of purpose, and I was crushed. And really, by grace through faith, and people like Gordon, I went to a Canes game with Gordon, and Gordon looks at me and goes, I was telling him about this idea. It was the first time I'd ever opened up about a business concept, because I don't know about you or when you started business, like sometimes talking about it at the beginning is the hardest part, is like actually just telling one person.
It feels stupid. You're like,
yes.
This is a stupid idea.
Yes. You're like, no one's going to see what I see,
Yeah.
and I got excited about it, but would other people get excited about it? And so Gordon and I went to a Canes game, and I had nothing to lose. I just started talking to him about it, and I didn't know how to explain it. I had no idea how to market. I had no idea what a value proposition meant or anything like that. And then Gordon just looks at me and he goes, man, that's like a banana stand. That's a really great concept. And he taught me about a specific business concept called cash flow. When in creating passive income for yourself, one of the best things is just having, it's like mailbox money. Every week you're getting paid and money's hitting your bank account. So there's always cash. And the banana stand is what Gordon taught me. And it was very inspiring and encouraging for me, because I saw someone who had achieved business success in what, in my eyes, was successful. He had a business that was across state lines, and it was making money, and it was fun. It was engaging. It had grown over the pandemic. So you took advantage of an opportunity during a low point in our country. And so for me, I was like, oh my gosh, it could work, So that's when I decided to make the most out of the opportunity. I didn't give up, and I came to Purpose Networking Group, started just talking about it more with people. And then, I really believe with God, there's always a way, and it got put in this, where we're sitting right now, in this building. And that's, the business got up and running. It started cash flowing. It made me stronger as a man. And so that's really where I learned the skill sets in business. I have a long way to go. I'm not perfect at all. There are so many things that I still
You're not done?
with.
You're not where you want to be?
No. Well, I feel rich already, in terms of like who I am because of what happened.
That's cool.
And in turn, there's so much more to the story. And so
Sure.
Basically the principles that I saw with the market, passive income, making money while I slept, I put a lot of work in on the front end, and then I got to like really not really focus on it that much over the past 2 years. It's been running now for 2 years, been making money ever since. And I put in 30 minutes a week maybe on it, or someone else does that I'll pay, or someone who wants to help. So I just share that because I saw there's a lot of themes with real estate. And really I kind of stumbled into the real estate idea. People had always sort of given me a heads up. We have a cousin in California who has a really successful real estate company, and it's been in our family, grandparents, things like that. But in terms of like me and my parents, it's like, nah. And, but I just sort of always felt like, well, it could be. And so I kind of stumbled into it. I went to a conference about 6 months ago, or I signed up for a conference 6 months ago, went to it. They started, showing ideas, and I just realized like, oh my gosh, I've been kind of preparing for this unintentionally for the past couple of years now, and I could now step into this now it's like with my whole family's into it too. So I actually don't plan on doing anything by myself. It'll be with the 4 of us potentially, and we'll just walk in it, But that's awesome. Long term though,
And so coming back to this idea of skill acquisition, and capital acquisition, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you start? Do you have to start with capital? Do you start with skills?
It's a good question.
What skills do you need to learn? Where do you start?
Yeah, for real.
And if you don't know yet, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to sit back and think. I think the first place that I started with, because I had a private investor invest in me when I started the market, mm-hmm. and I received money for that. So I did raise some capital unintentionally though. What started was just a desire and a hunger to learn, and I just asked someone who was working in something I was passionate about. I used to be 60 pounds heavier, and so I lost all the weight. Sure. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I came back from that. I was super excited, and I wanted to learn how to help other people do something similar. So I worked for a gym, and it was in that's the company I was talking about. It was a big gym, and I just approached them and I said, hey, I don't know what to do, but I know how to lose weight. I've done it myself. I have a degree in this. Can I shadow you guys and just do all the boring work you don't want to do? And then I did that for about 8 months. And then over time, I met an entrepreneur who kind of took me under his wing, and he said, hey, it's not about what you know now. It's about who you want to become. And if you want to become a business owner, because I told him I had a desire for entrepreneurship, he said, if you want to become a business owner, think to yourself, well, what does a business owner have? And then what do you need to do right now to try to fail forward to then become like that? So that's what got me into the race, I could say. I started doing it, and then it was about 6 months after that I received a private investment. So I would say the first place to start I recommend is a desire to actually grow. Okay. And then once you start taking initiative in your own life and then people will see that and be like, dude, you got it. I believe in you. Let's go. Okay. Yeah. Potentially. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. Can't get to a place without deciding you want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
solid.
That's step one. I totally agree with that. I would get a little more granular in terms of skill acquisition stuff. So yeah, I have not a similar background. It's a little different, but I acquired skills in a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I took those skills and applied them. So for me, it was about learning digital marketing. Right. Yeah. Now, that was a huge step in my career because I ran a digital marketing agency for a big company, managed a team. So I learned management of people. I learned hiring, which was really important. I learned how to, make sure people are doing their job and happy and productive. And then I learned the nitty gritty of SEO, WordPress development, website hosting, domains and email registration and all this, the technical side of running a business from a marketing and technology perspective. And so I did that for 5 years, and without even realizing it, kind of became an expert at it.
100%.
And so when I started my own business, Triangle Lawn Games, I basically just built a website and spun up an email address and set up a booking system and set up phone number and just kind of did it all.
You just
I didn't even think about it. I just I know how to do that.
That's awesome.
And that was the reason I wanted to do it. It was because I did know how to do it, and I saw these successful business owners making money and doing well and seemingly living the life that I wanted to live, which comes back to that decide where you want to go and then go there.
Yeah.
So to me, it was about that. And then there's other skills though that I've had to add, and I'm sure you could agree with this, that I think sales is a really important really, really important and difficult skill.
Absolutely.
And I think it's evident from probably millions of people in America and beyond that when you learn sales, when you can do sales well, you're going to be successful. I would say, so in Purpose Networking, this group that we're in, today every Wednesday at Raleigh Founded. We'd love to have everybody that's ever interested in that. It's a great networking group, and a lot of the people in it are salespeople or started as salespeople, right? So almost everybody here has had a sales job at some point.
Yeah,
and I think it probably leans into the fact that everybody's outgoing and everybody's fairly business savvy, and sales is a place to start for that. So if you are someone out there that's looking to get into business and you don't know where to start, I would start with a sales gig.
Yeah, that was my thing. Is there's so many options of skills to learn. You scroll on Instagram for 2 minutes and you'll have 30 people selling you a course on a certain skill to acquire, to then go out and, especially with SEO and everything, if you just mention the word entrepreneurship, you're going to get flooded with content on what to do, which is, I think, a blessing that it's so accessible now, right?
Sure, that's one way to look at it.
It's also really annoying.
I'd say another skill is to cut through the noise.
Yes.
And to be able to tell what's real and what's not. But
and that's my biggest advice, I think, that helped me the most, is in that same time, the first 5 years, the job was in the gym, and I ended up becoming the sales manager for the gym. Extremely underqualified. I had one sales experience the time before. I sold pest control door to door for one summer, and so I really had no idea. And but they threw me in this gig, and so it was very much like, Adam, figure it out. Go in this, try to launch this gym. And the goal is 500 people, and go bring them here. I was like, what the heck?
We've built it. Now bring them here.
Yeah, literally. And, there's one night where I had just sold a big contract. It was like $8,000. I had watched it. See, the one good thing about Instagram is I saw this guy named Jesse Itzler, who owns the Atlanta Hawks basketball team. I've told this story before in the podcast, but I watched a video and he said, if you're a young 23-year-old person, go out in your community and make a restaurant your stomping ground.
I do love this story. This is a great story.
And it was like, I could do that, go to a restaurant and go just talk to the people at the restaurant. Don't try to be anything you're not, but just go there and talk to people. And so I did. Sure enough, the first night I go to this fancy restaurant in North Raleigh, I meet a man who comes in, and he invited me to his church, but then the next day he came into the business and he spent close to $8,000. And for me, that was like, eureka, it was like, I found it, because the past 6 months, my sales numbers were very poor compared to that. Ultimately, he introduces me to the owners. The owners come in, and I get called in around the same time to my boss's office at the time. And I just kind of told him, I was like, hey, this is working. And I was super jacked up about it. I was excited. And he just goes, you're so worthless. You're not worth any of the money I've invested in you. He thought I was kind of full of crap, because I had shown glimpses of that I could be really good, but I could also have really low numbers. And in sales, it's like it's all about consistency, and I was not consistent at the time.
Yeah, and that's another skill we can talk about.
100%. And so he was tearing into me, and he threatens me, and he just goes, Adam, you're so full of crap. What are you going to go do? And I just said, I probably should have said, I'm going to quit. But I said, I'm going to go sell. I felt like I was in a movie. And he was like, okay, how much? And I said, $1,000. And he goes, okay. And if you don't by Friday, then you're fired. And it was a Tuesday night. I didn't have a networking group I could call up on. I couldn't call Gordon and be like, hey, bro, this is what happened. I'm in a tough space. This is going to sound crazy, but can you come in? I had none of that. It was very much like, I don't have the resources. I got to be resourceful, And so I ultimately went out back to the restaurant the next night. And then a woman came in the next day, and she came in and she spent $3,000, which was triple what the quota was. And I didn't know what to do in that moment. It was so chaotic. It was so stressful. And what I did is I had worked with a sales coach to teach me how to sell. That was my goal over the past couple of years. And I called him in the moment, and he just encouraged me. He said, Adam, let's reignite your faith. Let's pray. And then the next day, just you'll know what to do. That's all he said. And I was like, what?
Thanks for that.
I know, right? But ultimately, I felt kind of alive after that, and it brought me through. So that personally reignited my faith, and I wasn't going to church or anything like that at the time. So it was like a special moment. I was like, whoa, this matters, And so I agree. All that being said, I agree that sales and learning how to influence is pivotal,
And I think you're hitting on something that I probably wouldn't hit on, which is the idea of belief in sales and in business. And I think that's an important thing for a lot of people. It's really important for everybody. I guess everybody just sort of does it in a different way. But I'm sitting here thinking okay, well, for sales, it's really important to be organized and to have a system. And it's we also have to believe in yourself. Otherwise, you're never going to, it comes back to choosing that destination. Right?
Amazing. That was the greatest gift when my old boss, he worded it like that. He was like, well, what are you going to do? He challenged me. And he didn't say, I'm going to fire you. I mean, he said it at the end, but he led me to it.
Right.
Granted, I don't know if I'd do that if I was a boss now. But at the time,
you don't live in Wolf of Wall Street, by the
No,
way. It's
no.
not necessary to do those
100%.
things,
Definitely not.
comes back to management and treating people well. And things
100%.
like that, but-
I agree 1,000%. I don't think I would do it as a boss. What it did though is it greatly empowered me, you know? And I think with sales, like you're right, belief, if I can't believe in the service that I'm doing or the service I'm contributing to, if I want to sell to someone else, first I got to start with me. Like, do I believe in it? Do I trust it? Do I trust me? You know, do I believe in me? And for me, the answer was no at the beginning. You know, that's why I hired a coach, because I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm hiring you, and I paid $5,000 the first year, $10,000 the second year. I was 22. I had no money. I was using credit. You know, like, but I figured it out, and it changed my life. It helped me completely. So I asked for help because I didn't know what to do. And then it was one-on-one coaching. It was through consistency that he helped me, you know, over time. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
But let me preface though, a lot of the technical skills I do not have. So going back is like picking and choosing, you know, what are some of the skills that you want to acquire?
Yeah.
And then for me, it's like, okay, if you choose it, decide, double down, you know, go for it with everything you got.
Absolutely.
And that's my MO.
Well, because another point that I would make is that in business, I do think that it's very important to focus on your operation and whatever that is, right? And to be really, really, really good at that.
Absolutely.
And so that's why for me, like I try to choose businesses that are simple, right? Like I don't want it to be super complicated. Like we're in the party rental business, we're in the landscaping business, we're in the real estate development. I mean, real estate development's more complicated, but I mean, the first two are pretty simple things.
Yeah.
You just do them really well, and it's hard to do them really well, right? Like it can be very complicated to do that simple thing really well, especially at scale.
Yeah.
So what's your experience in terms of like learning your operation and getting good at the thing, keeping the main thing, and without outsourcing your thing?
That's a very good question. Biggest struggle that I had when I actually stepped away from the company and I started on my own. Because I mean, the truth is, to sell anything, if you're not an expert, then you won't talk with the conviction and the belief and the congruency where people are actually going to be like, oh, I'll do that 100%. Because most of the time in sales, it's just whoever believes it more will win.
Yeah,
but
speaking with confidence is a big part of it.
Yeah, sure. but like winning, if you're a good salesperson, it's just about helping them get what they want with it for their reasons. And then in turn, you'll get what you want because you're serving them. You know, that's how I believe. I don't think it's like a win-loss. No. You know, if it's like that, then you're probably not working with the best salesperson.
That's right.
And so ultimately, for me, I've pursued my passions a lot. So it's like with the gym, you know, when I was selling the health stuff and we were creating systems around that, I used the products all the time. I saw the impact that they had on me. I helped make the systems for it, and it was already kind of systemized the way that it had, the way that, you know, they bought like cryotherapy, for example, and like the system was in the tank. So like, it was very easy. Someone just had to come in, scan their fingerprint, and then they could start. And then all I had to do was just check them out. And I was like, well, that's pretty easy. Where I struggled a lot was with marketing and with, you know, creating systems where it's like, hey, let's find the people. I kind of just like would do one-off things. And I realized, you know, once those things dried up, it was very hard to get back up again and go push really hard to go find more people. And I didn't have a content generation strategy where people could find me. I didn't have Google SEO or anything like that. So when I tried the second time with business, I was launching Quick and Clean Market, and I was, you know, to find it in, to put it in this building, I just used relationships. So for me, it was all about like, how can I like leverage the people that I knew? Because I didn't have money, I didn't have a lot of skills, but I knew how to talk to people. And like I knew, you know, we made this podcast to build relationships with the people in the community that they could all help each other, you know? So that's what I leaned on. Very, very, you know, transparently, I kind of still suck when it comes to like inventory management and like organizing spreadsheets and doing a lot of the boring behind the scenes back office stuff.
Sales tax.
You know? Yeah.
Business licenses.
Yep. All the stuff.
Accounting.
Yeah. So
all the fun stuff.
It sucks.
That's the stuff I love.
Oh gosh. Are you being serious?
I kind of do. Like,
really?
Yeah, that's the stuff I really get into. Is like,
wow.
I mean, I pay someone to pay our sales tax now, which
Yeah.
is useful. And we have somebody on our team that does like our, like we have a bookkeeper, we have an accountant, we have somebody on our team that does sales tax and payroll. But like, I enjoy building those systems and like getting into them and looking at it. Like, I enjoy that part.
That's
of it.
cool.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Which is fine, but I will caution folks that if you're not doing that as a business owner, you leave open for interpretation and problems and errors, and it's you got to keep your finger on a pulse. And so like you're in a place right now where you are doing that a lot yourself, which is
now,
good.
yeah, now
Because you're not, outsourcing it completely and forgetting about it. And if you can get to that point, that's great. But I still think it's important to keep your thumb on that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So, like we've talked a lot about different skill acquisitions, and it's, marketing is one for sure. Sales is a big one for sure. The operations are big, right? Accounting, finance, legal, I think is an important skill set to learn. Are there any other skill sets that you've had to figure out and learn and talk about?
Well, I would just say I don't know. So like, Gordon, I would actually flip it back to you and really just I'd love to know your knowledge. For me, what I become curious is like, how can I work on myself harder than what I'm doing externally? So if I'm pursuing a project in business or entrepreneurship, I believe fundamentally that if I can grow in my character, and I can figure out sort of me, I believe in like purpose and in my calling. Like I believe I'm put on here for a reason to make an impact in something that is bigger than me. So if I can figure that out, then I believe, and this is the belief part, is like, I believe that other things greater will come in the future. So I actually am very early on in my skill acquisition. I'm learning, I pretty much, there's so much more for sales, but that's where I started. I feel confident enough in that to take the next step for now. For me, it's marketing. So I actually don't know. I would actually ask you is like, what do you think?
Well, there's a lot of ways I could go with this, right? But you were talking specifically about real estate. And so I will say with real estate, it's very complicated. There's a lot of different minutia and things you got to learn. And for us, my brother and I sort of have separated the business in that he's the builder, like that's his job. And my job is sort of like the business side, and he helps with that. And I don't really, I compacted some gravel, but like I'm not a builder. So anyway, my point is that I went and got a real estate license.
You did?
I did, just because I'm not going to be a real estate agent most likely, but I wanted to learn more about how that stuff works and how buying and selling homes works and how property development works and subdivisions and the rules and regulations surrounding everything. And I thought that the quickest path to that would be to study for and pass the real estate exam. And so I did that, and it was useful.
Did you find it helpful?
Yes, I did. And I would recommend anyone that wants to actually do real estate to be a developer or to be a home flipper or a property manager. I mean, you should get your real estate license. Okay. Because it's worth doing. And it's hard, but you do it because that's what you do is you do hard things, and then it's worth it. But it did, and I'm going through like all the continuing education, and so for me, it's taught me how to dig into the minutia. Like I'm trying to get a subdivision done in Raleigh. Oh, amazing. And so like one of the things that I'm working with now is like the board of adjustment variance stuff, and I'm working with the transportation department and the surveyor, and it's like I would have zero idea of what they're talking about if I hadn't like just studied for and taken the real estate exam. And now I have a 35% idea of what they are talking about.
Right. It's like the language, like a common, like the words,
exactly. And so I think that I also took the LSAT because I wanted to just like understand law a little better, and I did okay. I didn't do that great, but I would take it again if I wanted to go to law school, which I thought I might. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I have chosen to gather as much information as I can in a variety of different fields, regardless of whether or not I'm going to go into that field. I think it's important to try and learn some of that stuff.
100%. Just
to add to your Rolodex of knowledge. So I
agree 100%. That's good advice. The real estate stuff that we're talking about, for me at least, very fresh. I mean, it's like 4 days in. So when I'm more of just like inviting you guys on the journey. It's like, hey, this is just where I'm at in my decision making, and
we're gonna follow along with Adam.
And I agree with that 100%. It's like when I lived in a camper for a couple months when I was launching the gym business, and I read like 30 sales books because I was like, I want to like learn. I want to literally engulf and immerse myself in everything. So I agree with that 100%. I consider that, you know.
And the thing is, there's so many resources available on YouTube and at the library and all kinds of places for free that anyone can get.
Yeah.
That's my advice to folks: is just try to acquire as many skills as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Spend the time on it. Don't, look, if you're struggling and you want to change careers or you want to do something, you gotta stop watching TV, put down Twitter.
Yeah.
Learn something.
Yeah.
You have to. And it sucks. And
you got to step out of your comfort zone.
I'm not speaking down to people. I'm just saying that like you have to
true.
You have to be realistic to yourself.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I'm going to do this thing for 2 hours tonight rather than waste time. Yeah. And I'm guilty too. Like,
well, there's nothing wrong with just admitting like, hey, I'm not there yet. You know, at the beginning you're like, are you there? And I was like, well, not necessarily where I'm dreaming to be, you know? And there's nothing wrong with admitting that there's a gap. Because I think one of my biggest challenges is comparison. I'll go into a networking group like this and I'll see, people, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm not even close to where they are. I suck. Should I even say anything about what I'm working on?
Everybody else here's got 10 or 20 years on you.
Right.
So you gotta understand that you're 25, is that right?
Yeah.
So
it's like,
yeah, I'm just starting out.
I was an idiot at 25.
You know what I mean? I'm starting to walk, So I share that with you, whoever's listening, where you might feel like the same way. You're like, well, I'm scrolling on Instagram, I'm scrolling on TikTok, I'm seeing guys making 20 grand in a month, I'm seeing millionaires happen overnight. Why not me? Am I late? Am I late? Am I not on time? And I'm just here to tell you, you are right on schedule. You are right on schedule, and that's okay. So give yourself time to fully develop. Give yourself time to read the books. Give yourself time to take some courses if you see fit. Give yourself time to build relationships. Gordon's been a huge blessing for me in my short career so far. He literally, if he didn't tell me, dude, there's money in the banana stand, I wouldn't have done the business. I literally wouldn't have done it. And now it makes $6,000 a year, passive income that I just receive a check from. That's it. From selling Celsius energy
There's always
drinks.
money in the banana stand.
100%, and it's given me the confidence now to consider a bigger vehicle. So it doesn't really matter like what the vehicle is. Real estate, it's a vehicle. It's not the end, but it's just a means to help me, generate income for my family and my children and my children's children. It's about legacy. So wherever you're at, you're not late. You're right on schedule, and just give yourself time to, find one person, ask them questions, read a book that you haven't read, read a marketing book, read a sales book, go join a networking group, get around a community of other people who are already good at what you're trying to be good at. And then you'll grow like overnight because you're going to be surrounded by these people. Get a coach. I believe in coaching. Like, go get someone who knows what the heck they're doing, and then pay them. And then they're going to like turn a decade of their life into a couple months for you, potentially.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And I could be skeptical of coaching and some of these things, but
you got to vet them. Like, you got to figure out if they're real.
There are people that are helpful and that can help you, and especially in your situation. And I think you hit on another thing that I want to just close with, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is that idea that this is a means to an end. The business vehicle is a means to. I love that. And I think a lot of people, they wait and they don't do things because it's not like their passion, right? They don't start a business, they don't change jobs because it's not their passion. They don't love their work because it's not their passion. Well, the truth is, work is not passion. Work is a means to an end to make money so you can live your life with your family and your friends and your passions. And I think we need to get away from this idea that my work has to be a passion. It doesn't have to be. If it is, that's fantastic. But if your passion can be to grow that business or do that job really well, so that you can go live your life to the fullest outside of that, don't be unhappy in work. Don't do something you truly hate. But I think we need a mindset shift of like, I hate this. Yeah. It's like no,
I'm not gonna do it unless it's like everything I want it to be.
Stop that.
Yeah.
People do HVAC.
That's true. Yeah, it's like step out of your comfort zone.
You can love anything. You also have to be realistic that you have to have a job. You have to make money. If you're starting from nothing, do the stuff that you might not want to do and just try to be happy with it. Because
100%.
You have to learn those skills, and you're going to learn things, and you're going to make money, and you're going to do well for yourself if you just fully invest yourself into it. Yeah. And it's hard, and it kind of sucks sometimes, but you have to change that mindset.
Well, that's what Gordon, he spent 5 years. You're working in a company that I wouldn't say is necessarily like.
I didn't love that job.
Yeah, right. But you became an entrepreneur through that, and now you're engaging in
learned
all these
everything
businesses.
I needed to know
Yeah.
to start a business, and that's the thing.
That's
It's like,
amazing.
it worked out, and it's like you have to go through that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I've had a lot of jobs over my career, and it's like, I don't look back and say, oh, I wish I didn't. There's one job I wish I didn't do, but it got me to North Carolina, right? The job I moved to North Carolina for, it's like, man, I wouldn't be here otherwise,
right?
So I could be living in Memphis or
Yeah,
something. So,
everything's
which I almost chose Memphis.
everything's lined up, you know. Yeah, so just it's about who you're becoming, you know.
That's right.
And I agree 100%.
Your path is not determined now, and sometimes you gotta get through the hard part to get to the good part.
Absolutely.
So anyway, Adam, thanks for sharing your story.
Gordon. This is awesome.
This is good.
This is the best one we've ever done.
We appreciate y'all very much, and for watching and listening. Make sure you check us out on YouTube and on Spotify, Apple, Purpose Podcast Raleigh. Check out Raleigh Founded Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. We've got Purpose Networking, and then we're also going to be on the first Wednesday of every month at Yard House in Raleigh. So check it out. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're grateful for you.
Awesome. Cheers.
Bye.